Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, family. Welcome, 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 welcome to the Mental House with me, your host, Khadija. Okay, you know, I saw something on TV last night. You know, I don't watch television very much, but I caught an episode of Iyanla Van Zant, and I know a lot of y'all think that's uh, cornballish because I've heard a lot of you say that, but I believe healing knows no gender. And what I do believe, in my opinion, is that's the kind of work that is just difficult to do. To get, because we have such layers and layers and generation of pain. Uh, and especially uh, as black people on the planet of African descent, we have a lot of trauma. Oh Lord have mercy. But and so really basically when you break it all down, I think like I learned that two of the hardest things to do is to tell the truth and to trust. And that's in every situation. I was laughing at one time I saw a 5150 episode where Crazy Corey said something to the fact of how good he felt because he told his woman everything, everything, and it was just so brutal. It was so brutally nuts, but at the same time, it was so freaking honest that is exactly that is exactly what we all need to do. And a lot of times, when you really think about it, that is the hardest thing for a lot of people to do is to be authentic. Take the story for instance of allegedly that's going around about Bow Wow and him fronting. Like there's a future in your front. Being dishonest and putting that much pressure on yourself or really going through a lot of stuff to try to hide something that is embarrassing, something that is shameful, something that you don't want to admit about yourself, something. Those are the things that are hard. And being authentic and honest sometimes means, well, it means exactly um, what it says. To be open and honest means you giving that person a choice, the person that you're communicating with. So you have to trust the process. And a lot of times people are so manipulative that they don't want to trust the process. So they'll lie and to get the result as opposed to trusting that if this is supposed to happen, it's going to happen and it'll happen authentically. But at least I know I've stood in truth and now I can trust whatever comes from that truth. A lot of people can't do that. And the older I'm getting, I'm beginning to value how much of a quality that is for us to have. And I'm saying that because when I saw that episode of Iyanla Van Zandt, and it was like 3 generations basically. It was really a mother and her 6 daughters. But what it boiled down to is you saw generation and generation and generation again of hurt. But more importantly, is what we talk about a lot here in the mental house is family secrets and molestation of family members. You have family members who will go through their whole family raping the females in the family. And then you have to go to the damn family picnic, and these bastards are sitting up in the family picnic, and people acting like they don't even know what's going on. And so when you meet somebody, I mean, just think how fake and inauthentic this is, okay? So now you're going to meet somebody, okay, that you want to be your significant other, or whatever, and you go into the family picnic and your rapist is there. Okay, so now you didn't, it's also crazy. You may not say anything, or if you have said anything, it doesn't even really matter, because either way it go, the person that you're with is going to feel some kind of way, because they're going to be like, I'm sitting up here at the picnic with this fucker and he's raped you, and the whole family is cool with it. I mean, it's all kinds of crazy stuff that goes on in these families. That it's just insanity. And the episode the dysfunction ran so deep. It ran so deep. You had the oldest girl who was 35, and all I could see that is being a daughter of mine, a child of mine. And her mother, and when at the stage that her mother was in when she was born, where her mother was a drug addict. So now, when her mother was a drug addict using dope, that's why you always hear me, even though, I wasn't. Now, let me just stay to the subject. You always hear me apologizing for my generation. I do, because that daughter is 35. The mother was 50. Okay? Now, I'm in my 50s. So what it showed me is, at what I know to be true, we were part of that early 80s epidemic when cocaine was everywhere and crack was just a madhouse. A lot of my friends fell victim to the crack epidemic. And in fact, I lost a sister to crack and eventually murder. Now, with that being said, as a musician, I'm not a spring chicken. I'm not a spring chicken. I mean, I'm not naive, is what I should say. So I grew up in an era where cocaine was plentiful. Marijuana, alcohol, just as today. And prior to that, in the 70s, a lot of black people were using heroin. No one cared about black people using heroin. They were all strung out. Black folks on dope. They came back from Vietnam. A lot of them were just, it was a mess. But nobody talked about that. And it wasn't an epidemic like you see now, because now a lot of white people are hooked on heroin. But what I felt the compassion for that 35-year-old, as if she could have been my child, was the fact it was my generation that exposed them to an awful lot of pain, awful lot of neglect, a lot of dysfunction, let alone the sexual dysfunction that which led her right into the drug addiction in the first place. Okay, because people use drugs when they're trying to run away from something, escape from something. I mean, you don't just use drugs to, there's some emotional pain there. There's something that you're running from. Anyway, I felt so much compassion for the oldest daughter, because her mother became a mother at 15 years old. Now you tell me, when we really think about it, if you guys are really, 15-year-old is a 15-year-old mentally. I don't care how much makeup they put on. I don't care how much fastness that they may be exemplifying. They're still 15. And the brain, research has found and proven that the brain keeps growing until you're about 25. So what we're saying here is, no matter what you say about these little chicks, well, she looked like she was grown. And I hear a lot of dudes say shit like that really just, I'm like, you a molester. Let's just call it for what it is. You a freaking molester. And there's too many of these in our community, but of course people don't look at them as molesters or pedophiles. I should say pedophiles, unless they're gay, which I find that to be just such a travesty, because we really missed the point. Because there's a pedophile in this family that has ran through all the little babies, the girls, when they were like, one of them, when she started when she was in 3rd grade, the pedophile started when she was 12, and that's usually what happens. You know, it just made me think. It made me get in touch with this, and I've talked about this before, and when you go back and you're doing the healing, you're doing the work. When you're not happy, and when you don't have an authentic relationship with your mother, it leaves you out in the cold. And that's whether you're a man or a woman. It just manifests itself in different ways. When you take a boy and you mistreat him and you whip him and you become overbearing, and it creates in that young man a situation that when he either it's two alternatives. Either he's going to be handpicked, as they say, or he's going to be one of these guys that is passive aggressive and probably end up killing his wife or something, or beating her to death. I mean, and that is because of the hatred usually that he has for his mother. It always boils back down to mom. A lot of people don't want to realize that, especially these young men, in MGTOW, as they say, men going their own way. But it's important that we understand that as women, you're going to get blamed. We're going to get blamed for everything anyway. And because that baby is such an integral part of us, it grows in us and hears our heartbeat. It feeds off our food. When you bring in that kind of life in the world and you're very immature and you just think it's just a freaking sex contest. You're not even thinking about the life you're bringing in the world. You doing that human being such a disservice. Because I thought about one of the sisters. She said, I wish you would have aborted me instead of leaving me with a pack of wolves. Think about that. She told her mom, wish her mom would have aborted her as opposed to leaving her in the house with a pack of wolves. Okay? And when you hear men talk about, the injustices and stuff that happens to them, like I said, when they go to the judicial system and when they go through certain aspects of the court and things like that, and I agree with them. Some of that stuff is just so messed up. But at the same time, fortunately that but men have been known to brutalize so many families. And as you can look back at this situation right here, whether we learned it from slavery, it is really irrelevant. There was some men that ran through this family that were related to these girls. Some men that molested the daughter, the mother, and all her daughters. And that's the key factor to their madness. That's the key factor to their anger, key factor to their rage, key factor to their shame, overeating. So when you think about all this stuff that these siblings have to endure because the mother had a baby at 15, then got caught up in the drug game. So the eldest children was just brought up with neglect and dysfunction, just neglect, having to take care of her younger siblings. How many black people do their kids like that? Make the older kid take it. They don't think nothing of it. A lot of white people too, but that's not what I'm talking about right now. That was a black family. And for those of y'all that say, well, it happens in white families too, I know it does. It's just dysfunction. I'm just saying, as black people, we have more of it. Okay, that's all I'm saying. So I'm speaking to that group, but this is open information. The fact of the matter is, we can't afford to be this sick, because what you see is generation after generation of brokenness, and somebody has to break the cycle so you can even think straight. And I believe, like Michael Jackson said, you got to start with the man in the mirror. Thanks to Saida Garrett, because that's the real thing. You have to start with the person in the mirror, and you have to get in touch with all those dark spaces and crevices. Oh, and it's hard because you have to tell the truth, and then you have to trust. And a lot of people, when you tell them the truth, they're not going to be your friend anymore. You're going to lose them. A lot of times when you tell people the truth, or the truth is exposed, it changes the relationship. But you can't be attached to the outcome. And that's hard to do. And that's why most people lie. And this woman felt that it was important to tell that her daughters what had happened to her. But yet and still, all those daughters have been molested by the same man. It was sad. And I'm saying that to say, you guys, the shame is not on you if you've been molested or if you've been, neglected. But the shame is on you as an adult if you recognize that you don't like the way you are and you don't do anything about it. And you don't begin to trace this lineage of pain and brokenness. Okay? So if you didn't get a chance to see it, it was really good. And there's going to be another part, I guess, that comes on next week. So anyway, that's it. Okay, you guys. If you like what you hear, please like, subscribe, share. Thank you for being out there. And I'll talk to you next time in the mental house. Okay, bye-bye.